It's Sunday of a big, a big combat sports weekend because, in addition to the UFC, giving us a kind of mixed bag offering that probably over delivered a bit. We had Devin Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko in boxing. I watched the fight. I'm not going to go super deep into it. If you've been listening for a long time, you know I don't really go into boxing. And if you're new here, I don't go into boxing. There you go. I don't watch enough of it. I don't find it engaging enough. It's not that I dislike boxing. Because honestly, if MMA had never become a thing, I would probably be watching a lot of boxing. Like, it probably would replace MMA in all those hours and so on. It's just MMA I find to be the most fascinating of all the combat sports. So boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai even, these tend to suffer in comparison. So I'm not going to offer like a super technical breakdown of the fight. I scored it 7 rounds to 5 for Loma, and I think even 8-4 is possible. The judges coming up with a unanimous decision for Haney, I think is a robbery. There you go. That is my entire summary of the boxing fight. Let's move on to the UFC component here, which is the UFC Vegas 73, I do believe, the most recent Apex card, Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill, main event. I do have to say, quick note here. If you listen to my preview cast, I picked 2 fighters that I ended up not picking. I ended up not sticking with those picks. This happens every so often. Something will occur to me, or in one of these cases, someone will look absolutely garbage on the scales. And I will have to rescind my pick. In terms of the 2 that we're talking about here, I switched over to Themba Gorimbo in the opener because literally, and I do not exaggerate or kid on this, I woke up the day after doing the podcast. So this is Friday morning, filmed it on Thursday, uploaded on Thursday. Wake up Friday morning, and the first thing I think of as I am making my breakfast, which was Pop-Tarts, is, holy crap, did I pick Takeshi Sato to win a decision? And I reversed it. I reversed it and went with Themba Gorimbo. I'm happy I did. And then on the weigh-ins, I switched away from Louis Koshy, who missed weight and looked absolutely terrible, and moved over to Gilbert Urbina. I felt less great about that one because, number one, it still feels like I'm someone got something wrong in the weigh-in process, in the weight cut process. And that usually, to be honest, most of the time, this points to a health issue because it's not like Koshy looks like a massive destructive welterweight or anything. If he has to go up to middleweight, which he probably should have to if he's going to keep his UFC job, he's going to look tiny. But he blew the weight cut. He looked bad. Swapped over that pick as well. Those 2 moves paid off. I will say I do feel like Urbina might have beaten even full health Koshy because he looked good. He looked good. But we'll talk more about that fight in a bit. Let's talk about the main event. Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill. I do think, I'm going to throw this out here, I do think people are over-exaggerating how good Dern's striking has gotten because a lot of what I was hearing and seeing on social media, which I did not live tweet this card, I just didn't feel up to it, was that, oh my God, she looks so much better as a striker. I don't think she did. I'm going to say, this is a bold statement here. I don't think her form, I don't think her technique looked any better. Hands are very, very low, throwing double fisting there, head wide open, not moving the head. All of the problems with her striking are there. What she looked better at was she was imposing. When she was striking, she was coming forward. She was saying, if you want me to stop hitting you, we need to clinch. She is actually pretty durable. Like, that's the one thing she's got going for her is that she's eaten some, not particularly hellacious shots or anything. I still think of, like, for example, if she ate a Jessica Andrade counter hook or something, it would probably put her out with the way she doesn't move her head. But she is, durable enough to take shots from most of the division, and she's fearless. And, well, I don't want to say fearless, but like she is insistent and she is in your face, and just hitting her does not make her go away. And those serve her very, very well when you add in the fact that everyone is terrified to grapple with her. And rightfully so. So she goes out there. She just bullies Angela Hill for the most part. I didn't give Hill a single round. I think if you gave her the second round, as I think all three judges did, that's fine. The third round or the second round was the one that Hill did the best in. She landed some good knees in the clinch. Ironically, she won most of the clinching strike exchanges. The problem just is that if you're in the clinch, you can get dragged down. And because Dern is quite willing to throw like head and arm sacrifice throws that end up with her on bottom, and then she still scrambles to top position and gets dominant positions and can possibly submit you, means that works incredibly well. I will say, one element of Dern's game that did look better is on clinch breaks, she would throw kind of nice big old elbows. Not super pretty looking or anything. Still a little bit awkward, still a little bit clunky, but it makes people getting away from her clinch have to pay a price. I think that actually is a really, really good idea. So what I'm saying is, still a bad striker, still not a very good wrestler. It should be mentioned. Her takedowns are still not good. But you got the great grappling, the insistence, the aggression. This could work. This could work really bad. Like she scored 2 10-8s on my card. I gave her 10-8s in the third round and the fifth round. She just dominated. There was not. I think in the third round they credited Hill with landing a single strike. I could be wrong on that, but I have UFC stats right here. So significant strike counts, 23-12 in the first round, 27-22 for Hill in the second round, 30-1 for Dern in the third round. Keep in mind, this was 70-3 in total strikes. Round 4 was closer, 24-23 in 6 strikes, 34-31 overall. I still gave it to Dern. She had a takedown. She had 2 minutes of top control. And then she dominated the third again, or the fifth again, with a 27-3 6 strike and 75-4. Whoa, that was a fantastic run. Now I will say, I'm going to throw this out here as an example. During the lead up to this, Mackenzie Dern was talking a lot about how, I think I've figured out my problems in 5-round fights. I want to be clear here. I don't think she ever had a problem in 5-round fights. I think her problems in 5-round or 3-round fights are the exact same thing. It's just that in 5-round fights, she was fighting a better quality of fighter that was actually able to take advantage of the weaknesses that she has. So she needs to fix. She just needs to fix. Like the eye should be on 5-minute rounds or 5-round fights, because she's probably going to see a lot of them. She's like kind of destined to main card like these fight night stuff, because there's a lot of fans who are a little bit simpy for her. And, she has the cachet. World champion jiu-jitsu, highest pedigree outside of MMA of probably anyone the UFC currently has on the roster in the women's ranks. So, and she's a top 10. She came into this 8th ranked. She'll probably be 6th ranked when the UFC rankings come out again. I see her hopping over Verna Jandiroba and Marina Rodriguez. And she's probably going to be a top 5 fighter at some point. There's going to be a lot of main events, and definitely managing cardio for 5 rounds is a thing. It's just, I don't think that was a specific problem. This was a very good performance, and she squashed Angela Hill. I don't have a lot more to say about it. Like, I'm kind of poo-pooing it a little bit in the sense that I just think that there are some conclusions and extrapolations being made about her striking that are not actually supported. But she went out there and she performed incredibly well, especially given all the drama going on in her life. 2 thumbs up, big fist pump, great performance. And her reward is a fight with Carla Esparza, in my opinion. The UFC has tried to make the Esparza Dern fight a couple of times before. Now is the time it makes the most sense. Carla is really the only top 5 fighter a bit available for her to dance with. Jan is probably waiting for a championship shot and already fought Dern. You have Zhang with the belt. You have Rose. No one knows what Rose is doing, is what it comes down to. Like, you're not going to see Rose Namajunas in my, next fights, just period. Because I don't know if she's ever going to fight again. And I don't know if, it could be a flyweight if she does. There's a lot there. But yeah, Carla Esparza is the one that makes sense the most. You could do, Jessica Andrade doesn't make any sense. She's in top 5. And then, I think, is Amanda Lemos actually getting a title shot? I'm forgetting if they've actually committed to that. They've said it a number of times. Women's straw weights. Yeah, okay, yeah. She is getting the shot. UFC 292. Right. So yeah, you got Lemos tangling with Jean. Rose is unreliable. Jan and Dern fought not long ago. And then you've got Andrade, I think, in the top 5. And that just seems like entirely bad timing. So yeah, Carlos Esparza, really the only thing that makes sense. Really the only thing that makes sense on paper. For Angela Hill, I've got Karolina Kowalkiewicz, which is lazy because Kowalkiewicz fought on this card. I don't usually like to take that lazy outing, but those are 2 pillars of the strawweight division. They have been here forever. Angela Hill literally since inception, and they have not fought each other. Make it happen. Do that. Do that thing. And, it's a nice nostalgia fight between 2 fighters that are probably past their prime, but apparently still competitive. I picked against Kowalkiewicz on this card, but she delivered. That's all I got to say about that fight. Edmen Shahbazyan, Anthony Hernandez. All right, I need to address something here. After Shahbazyan lost this fight, MMA Twitter, enemy social media, has gone crazy about how his career is over. And to that, I have the following to say. 1, he's 25 years old, I do believe. Anyway, mid-20s either way. There's time. There's plenty of time. He's with a new gym. Give him time. 2, all this fight proved, frankly to me, is that he's just hard capped. Like, if he can't get past this whole, whether it's a cardio issue or a heart issue or just a physical durability issue, I don't know what it is, because he did say he thought he broke a rib. He has collapsed like this before. He has blamed injury for this before, so I don't know. Whatever the problem is, that when things start to go bad for him, they go really bad. Like, it just shuts down. He has no way back into the fight. Still has only failed against guys who are in the top 10 or Anthony Hernandez, who is a freak. So, like, I think there's a lot of fighters in this division that he can still actually beat. Like, I'm ironically someone who was never, like, super bullish on, like, the hype train that was Shahbazyan. Don't get me wrong. I think he can be very, very good. I think under the right circumstances, and if he can sort out whatever it is that's plaguing him, this is a guy who could potentially fight for a title. Like, I go that high. But there were people when he was on the come up that were talking about him, mostly because of the extension of Ronda Rousey, of being like a longtime dominant champion. And I never bought into that part of it. I just thought that there was a very high ceiling for him. But and the irony is that now that everyone's hating on him, I'm the one that's here going like, it's really not over for the guy. Like, there's a lot of guys, even in the top 15, he can beat. I don't know what to make of it. Anyways, the fight was pretty simple. Shahbazyan started really well. He was actually really doing really well with the stand up. He was finding, I think it was a left hook. It might have been a right hook. But like he was landing a hook from one side or the other really cleanly, really cleanly. And did his thing. It was looking really good. And then in the second round, it started turning against him. Hernandez was focusing more and more on his wrestling, working for chokes. Never actually got a super deep choke, which is actually impressive because I thought that Shahbazyan would give up a choke to get out of the fight, and he did not do that. But he did also possibly, arguably, got 10-8'd in the second round. Like he got run over, he got beaten. The constant pressure, the pace from Hernandez, breaking him down, putting the chokes on him, doing his thing. And then the start of the third round, one, he's complaining about the broken rib in the corner. Herb Dean actually warns him to, like, you got to be able to defend yourself here. And Hernandez takes him down, gets dominant position, starts dropping the elbows on him, and it's over. Herb Dean with the mercy stoppage of this was getting ugly. And that's what Hernandez does to people, and that's what Shahbazyan has happened to him. So I'm not surprised. This was a fight that I made a little bit of money on because I put some money down on Hernandez. I went very, very light with my betting on this card, but I did, and I don't usually pick a guy who's coming in about minus 200 to put a money on, but I did think Hernandez would win this fight, and it would be a statement maker, and he got it done. So that was nice. And for next opponents, I've got Kyle Bahayo for Fluffy. I think that's a fun fight. That's an interesting fight. Fun might not be the right word. And for Edmen Shahbazyan, I have another guy who has all the physical answers and just seems cursed to fade and crumble in fights. Phil Haas. Edmen Shahbazyan, Phil Haas. Make it happen. Battle of the crumbling bricks of time. Do they train together? I should have probably looked that up. Because I kind of feel like Phil Haas might be an Extreme Couture guy. Not that Extreme Couture guys don't. No, he's Killcliff. He's Killcliff. Okay, he's a hoof guy. All right, yeah. I have no faith in Killcliff to fix him. If one of those two fighters is fixable, it's Edmen, because he's at a place that actually has a history of being able to do that. Loopy Godinez looked really, really good against Emily Ducote. She won the first and the third round, I thought, pretty easily, pretty convincingly. The second round I gave to Ducote. It was close. Ducote had moments, but it's never good when you're the striker against a wrestler and you're the first one looking for takedowns. And she couldn't keep the pace. Like, that's what it came down to. Like, if you're asking me who has prettier technique and cleaner ability to strike and all of that, the answer is still Emily Ducote. But Godinez just paced her out of the fight. Like, and this is a big problem for Ducote, in my opinion, is that she's kind of this low volume, not super low volume or anything, but she's not comfortable fighting at a pace greater than what she wants to set. And while she does have some nice counters, and they did come up, she's done Godinez a couple of times on the counter. That was nice. It's not like she has one-punch fight-altering power to go with that. She kind of needs to build that up a little bit, get some damage, and then sort of take the lead. Like, make you hesitate with the whole, I don't want to go in there again. I don't want to get hit again. And then take over. And she couldn't do that with Loopy. Loopy was like, I'm going to be in your face. I'm going to be constantly pushing it. And you're not going to be able to keep up. And it was nice to see Godinez win without really having to go into her usual cycle of strike, wrestle, sort of thing that she usually does. Because she did actually relatively little wrestling in this entire fight. I could be wrong, but I think she had like essentially no takedowns. She had one. They gave her one takedown and 13 seconds of control time. So if you were to tell me that Loopy Godinez was going to win a fight, even like a couple of months ago with 13 seconds of top control time and win by decision, it would have been a really weird moment. So she's coming along. She's improving. She's doing great. Her fights are still a little bit ugly as the process is there, but the process is going and it's working. And applause / fist bump / high five, whatever you want to go. Loopy gets that. She's doing a great job. And I would like to see her fight Luana Pinheiro, who's kind of going through like a similar transformation. We're not going to get that fight. The UFC is like far more invested in Pinheiro than that. But that is my pick. That is, if I'm in control, that's my pick. And for Ducote, I've got Vanessa Demopoulos because essentially, and again, this is a cheater because Demopoulos fought on this card. It's a fight between two people who do have a little bit of like physicality and a little bit of ideas, and they're a little bit one-dimensional, but they're trying to improve in other ways, and they exist in other ways, and it's just a fun fight between two people. It'll probably be a little bit messy, but it's probably one in which one will make sort of a little bit of a breakthrough and become better. And that's really what I want for both of them right now. Andre Fiallo versus Joaquin Buckley. Buckley's debut at 170. First round was not good for Buckley. It was, it was. Fiallo is normally a pressure guy, a pressure counter fighter. He went more just hard counter in this one. And it may have still allowed Buckley to win the round. I essentially scored it at 10-10. Buckley had the volume and Fiallo had the clean hits. But it was such a volume deficit that it was really hard to really give him the round. Hang on, I'll get you the official numbers here. Yeah, and when I say also, apparently they only gave Buckley 10 out of 36 strikes landed. So I don't know, maybe I'm going a little bit too far on that. But yeah, 10-8 strikes landed first round. I guess that does have to be a Fiallo round. He was the only one that landed anything clean. But and to be clear, Buckley ducked right into 2 head kicks, which is like the thing that he does so often. It's the problem. I actually kind of regretted picking Buckley in this fight, but I stuck with my guns and stuck with it because he was talking about how he was going down from middleweight to welterweight because he thinks that will fix his getting knocked out. No, it won't. You're going to be facing better strikers, and you have the same tendency to duck into shit. So no, Buckley's going to get knocked out at 170. It's just Fiallo was the wrong guy to do that. And second round comes around. There's a groin shot both ways. Fiallo pretty much no-sells it. And shortly after Buckley kicks Fiallo in the dick, he turns his light out with a head kick and hits a really unneeded extra punch. Referee was stepping in, but like wasn't doing like it was one of those things where like the ref is clearly coming in, but he's really not being forceful about it and lets him get an extra shot in. Kind of the Dan Henderson, Michael Bisping thing. I don't know if there was heat because in his post fight, Buckley, I got the feeling was calling out Killcliff, like come out, pick up your man, sort of thing. Like I don't know what beef he's got with that camp. But there seems to be something. The whole end thing, including the Booker T Edwards bill. I hesitate to say it's a bad look for Buckley. Twitter has been going off on like it's a bad look for Buckley. Here's the thing. If Buckley wants to position himself as, to use pro wrestling parlance, the heel, the guy you pay to see get beat up, to either do something really, really cool or get beat up. Like those are the two things you want. You don't want to see him win, but like he'll do something cool enough to make you forget that he's a jackass sort of thing. This works. If he's trying to position himself as the face or the hero or whatever, no. I just don't think so. Because the thing is that like if there is some like really dirty stuff going on between him and Killcliff, it's not clear to me, and it didn't appear to be clear to anyone on social media. So you've failed to tell the story. Like you just look like a jackass who hit somebody late and celebrated a lot. Like he like took a bottle of Prime rehydration drink and like is walking in front of a clearly unconscious Fiallo, like pouring it on his head and go, or not unconscious, but like in a bad way, Fiallo pouring it on his head and like mean mugging at him, like, oh my God. So if you're trying to be a jackass, if you're trying to be, I don't want to say Colby Covington, because I honestly get the feeling, I've always gotten the vibe from Colby Covington and his fans that they think he's the hero of the story and that he thinks he's positioning himself as the hero. But if you're doing the Colby Covington act, or you've just realized, you know what, I'm a bit of a dick, I'm going to embrace it, I'm going to roll with it, cool, fine, we got a heel persona, it does nothing for me. I've kind of come to the conclusion that like there's a lot of fighters that if I met in person, interacted with for like, I don't know, a week, I probably would find them to be like kind of really, really annoying. Not all of them. There's some nice guys that I know there's some nice guys. I've interacted with some of them, but it is a sport where, you know, you are punching people in the head, and there are certain personalities that's going to attract, and you know, any idea of like martial valor that like you have to be pure of spirit to be really, really good at fighting is a joke. So that's why it just doesn't really do much for me. I mean, John Jones is a turd world, but I still watch his fights and I pay to see him fight. Because in the cage, I'm very, very interested. Not always. His Anthony Smith fight, like that was one that I had zero interest in from the start. And even the Santos fight, I had zero interest in the start. But yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I'm rambling. Buckley's next opponent, I've got Matthew Semmelsberger, a guy with power, a guy with physicality, but a guy who's not especially a good striker. See what happens. I've got Fiallo against the winner, or the loser. The loser. To be clear, he's lost 3 straight fights. Definitely good loser. Mike Malott, Adam Fugit. I still think Fiallo's trying to turn some things around and trying to do some things, and I appreciate that. 1 second here. My phone wants my attention. I don't care. Anyways, Fiallo is trying to change some things. He's at a good camp. I don't think it's the camp that'll develop him into anything, but hey, I'm still willing to continue this experiment with him. There are some guys further down the card that I just have no interest in seeing fight again. Fiallo's not one of those. Malott Fugit does feel about right. Michael Johnson, Carlos Diego Ferreira. One judge. Okay, so I have nothing really to say about judging. Really, I thought all the decisions on the card were correct. But the one judge did give the first round of this fight to Carlos Diego Ferreira. Dude got hit clean and wobbled like 3 times by Michael Johnson. And I don't think he landed any. Like I could be wrong, but I don't think he had any kind of. Yeah, he got outlanded in volume and quality. I've no idea. And he fell on his lone takedown. I have no idea what justification you could have for giving that round to him, to Diego, CDF. But the second round, CDF pulls his inner Travis Lutter. And if you don't know, UFC 50, Travis Lutter versus Marvin Eastman. It's one of my earlier fights, not my first. I started watching in... I know the fight. It's Lawler Burger is the fight that I started watching on. And that was UFC 35, 36, something like that. But anyways, UFC 50 was the first pay-per-view I ordered with my own money. I begged my parents before that. But it was the first one I ordered with my own money. And I watched it. And one of the early fights on the card is Travis Lutter and Marvin Eastman. And it's an incredibly boring first round. I'm not in any way advocating you go rewatch this fight. But the second round comes out and Lutter hangs a hand low and just throws a wild overhand and knocks Eastman flat. That was this. Carlos Diego Ferreira was leaning back to the enemy goal or to his own goal to throw that shot and hit the knockout. It's not how I predicted it. I thought at some point we'd end up on the ground and Johnson would get tapped. But we got the win. Went 8-4 on this card, by the way. One of my fairly good performances recently. Anyways, Ferreira got the win. I don't know if this has really fixed anything. He did say in the post fight that he's letting his coaches lead his development a lot more. Also, to be clear, he did land an unnecessary follow up strike, but he also did cradle Johnson's head and try to compared to what Buckley did, he did the nice guy thing. I don't know if this is really indicative of any really change around for him, but I've got him against Mike Davis because I want to see Mike Davis fight so many people. I'm just really excited about Mike Davis. I don't know why. I'm if you're like, hey Mike, why? Hey Mio, why do you think Mike Davis is going to be a champion or something? I don't even think he's going to be a top 10 fighter necessarily, but he's entertaining and I like it. I find his fights fascinating. Put him in there with CDF. For Michael Johnson, I've got Jim Miller win or lose against Jared Gordon. 2 old timers. Let them go in there. Let them have their legends fight. Go on. Pretty much, I think the 2 longest tenured lightweights in the division, or in the UFC, I should say. Mahashete, Vyacheslav Borshev, or Borshow, or Barshow. I swear I've met Russians, and the last part of their name with that spelling is Shev and not Show, but whatever. Barshow is how they pronounce it. This is a bad fight for Mahashete. I picked him, so that was embarrassing. Slaviklaus just has the better striker of the 2. He dropped him twice, I want to say. And then he got pounded out in the second round. Yeah, I think he stumbled him and he dropped him in the first round. And then he knocked him down the second time in the second round, finished him off with ground and pound. Cool, awesome, nice work for Borshow. Doesn't address any of the questions I have about him because predominantly the problem with him is his lack of wrestling. I've got him against Ricky Glenn. Ricky Glenn is a guy who does wrestle. Ricky Glenn is a guy who does bring pace. Ricky Glenn is a guy who, though he just did get knocked out, generally fairly durable. See what happens? Mahashete. I've got Mason Jones against him. I get the feeling Mason Jones might have got cut off of that loss to Ludovic Klein or let go for some reason. I hope not. He's a fun guy. He kind of fits into my Mike Davis mold of, I don't think he's going to be super good. I just really enjoy him. Then we get to Karolina Volkovich versus Vanessa Demopoulos. Demopoulos got taken to the cleaners here. Her highlight was like throwing a cartwheel in the third round and pulling guard. She wasn't able to get Karolina down, and she wasn't able to really achieve anything on the feet. She got outlanded 42-28, 55-22, 42-18. That's 6 strikes. It's worse on total strikes. Demopoulos' big problem is she's got a sub 60-inch reach, and she doesn't seem to have any idea how to utilize a jab or any kind of like entries or setups for a striking game. She does seem to like throw with like some nice power and actually even some decent form, but she's not in range. It's kind of like, all right, I need to explode into this big looping hook overhand combo. And it's like, no, you need to develop some proper boxing combinations and some cutoff footwork, and it's not there. And I regret picking her. Karolina picked her apart. Kovalevich versus Angel Hill, like I already said. Demopoulos versus Ducote next. There you go. Orion Koshi got steamrolled by Gilbert Urbina. I don't have much to say about this fight. Koshi clearly wasn't in it. He had the rough cut. He apparently injured his rib. Thinks he broke his rib. So him and Edmen Shahbazyan are in that club. Eventually Urbina, figured that out. Hit him in the body. Dropped him. Smashed his ribs with a kick. Smashed his ribs with a kick. And the ref was just like quick in for the mercy stoppage. It's a good fight for Urbina, but he's a PI guy, so I like the concept of the UFC Performance Institute. I really do. It's finally the UFC putting some money into like putting some support behind fighters to help them out if they need a gym or a place to train or nutrition, medical care, whatever. I like it. But as a primary training facility, I don't think it has the coaching to actually make a good fighter. Now, to be clear, Urbina is a guy who tends to fade really badly, even in the second round. He's a guy who tends to run out of ideas really quickly. That didn't happen here. So maybe he just needs like some very, very basic structure to build on. But I do think he has to at some point get to a decent coaching situation if he's actually going to become a UFC caliber fighter. So I will probably not be picking him in his next fight still, even though he did this. There's also the fact that I have thought that Lewis and Orion Koshi, the Koshi brothers, are both just not very good. Not good at all. They've beaten no one good. They've beaten no one UFC caliber, I should say that. They have beaten some okay regional talents. I think between the two of them, hang on. I always forget which one is which. So let's see here. Orion Koshi, the Galaxy, is, he beat Blood Diamond. And looked pretty bad doing it, to be honest. Blood Diamond's not very good. He did beat an undefeated fighter on the Contender Series, 9-0, Matt Dixon. And he is the only person who have beaten Matt Dixon. Matt Dixon has won since. But I've not seen enough of Matt Dixon, and his own record is full of guys who are 2-1, 0-0, 7-6, 8-6, 13-10, 6-4, 11-8, 10. His own best win is probably Braden Smith, who was 10-3. And I imagine Braden Smith, looking at a very unphysical looking guy, is also not, is a guy who has beaten regional cans. His own best win is like a 4-0 fighter. I don't know. Orion Koshi just doesn't really have much going for him, in my opinion. He's at Team Alpha Male at a weight class above featherweight. That doesn't work. It full on did not work if you are going to be a bigger fighter at that gym. They have no track record of producing people, even at lightweight, frankly. And Louis Koshy, who's listed at a Syndicate MMA, that would be a better fit. Is a guy who's lost to Trevin Giles and Sasha Platnikov. He was beating Sasha Platnikov's butt. But, like, again, his biggest win is 11-4 Victor Reina. I don't think they're ready. I think they need more time, more seasoning, whatever. And, cut him. For his own good, somewhat, cut him. Either he needs to regroup and go on to a post-fighting life. He's also missed weight twice. And, or get some time in the gym and working his way up the regional scene to develop like a more complicated game because it's incredibly bare bones. The less said about Rodrigo Nascimento, Ilal Latifi, the better. Nascimento won. I'm surprised Latifi even got a scorecard. Honestly, he got outlanded. He got outstruck. Couldn't get his wrestling going. Should probably retire. Nascimento, I have the winner of Andrei Arlovsky. Dontel Mays next. There you go. Chase Hooper, Nick Fiore. Oh, Lord. This was kind of Mackenzie Dern before we got to Mackenzie Dern, to be honest. Hooper went out there and he put a whooping on Fiore on the feet. That is a bad sign. Fiore's a good grappler. He shut down a lot of what Hooper was trying to do grappling wise. Like he ended up in good like dominant positions and whatever, but like didn't do anything with them. He didn't really throw any kind of like ground and pound at all. He didn't really go for any submissions when he had good positions, and he's not UFC caliber. You cannot get outstruck by Chase Hooper to the tune of, hang on here. Let me get the numbers here. 149-51. 3-1 by Chase Hooper. You can't do that. You can't do that. Hooper's striking doesn't look, still looks incredibly bad. Don't get me wrong. Like, incredibly bad. And he kept going into wrestling exchanges he wasn't winning. So, like, that's a fight IQ problem. It's an ugly, sloppy fight. It doesn't make me think that Hooper has really turned a corner or anything. It just makes me think Fiore is bad. He's the first kind of like full stop failure on the New England cartel. Someone in the Discord, Juliana, I think, said that she picked Fiore based on the fact that she assumed based on his gym association that he would actually have better striking than Chase Hooper. And that apparently was not the case at all. Anyways, Hooper versus Trey Ogden, who is a good kind of nullifying slow down factor. We'll see if Hooper can work his way around that. And Fiore versus the unemployment line, because I know he's only 0-2. I know the UFC doesn't cut people. I know he probably has 2, even 3 fights left on his deal. I'm not interested in seeing it. Maybe in the future, but I'm not interested in seeing it. Natalia Silva destroyed Victoria Leonardo. By the way, this was a 2-man booth for the first 2 fights. It was Bisping and Fitzgerald, because apparently Paul Felder, who was third man for the rest of the night, was quite ill. I don't understand what this matchup was meant to do. For Silva, it feels like the least challenging of her 3 fights in the UFC. Like, I know the book is still out on Teresa Bleda as to how good she actually is. Because, she was a debuting fighter and whatever. But, like, this didn't feel like a step up from that. It didn't feel like a step up from Jasmine Jasudavicius. Victoria Leonardo is not durable, not athletic, very slow, has a fighting style that is derived around the idea that she will fight on the outside and be slick, and it does not work and be, like, technical. She's not a particularly good striker, and she's just slow. She got destroyed here, probably got her orbital bone broken. And also they had the story of her breaking her own arm, throwing a spinning back fist against her husband and hitting him in the head. Other sports beckon. Other life opportunities beckon. Your body is trying to tell you something. I think Leonardo has broken her arm like 3 times now. And also now has probably broken her face. I'm not interested in seeing her fight again. For Silva, I've got her against Marina Moroz. It's a big step up. That is a massive step up. But I do think she's ready for it. And if she's not, I'm not sure what she's going to be learning down this low, because how old is she? I think she's fairly young. 26. Yeah, she's 26. So it's fairly young. She has a couple. I know. I think it is because like at one point in her career, she was 3-4-1. Like her career started very poorly, and it wasn't until like her probably the Marina Rodriguez fight in 2017 where she lost that fight, but like things started coming together, and then she hasn't lost since. I don't know what this fight was meant to do other than eliminate Victoria Leonardo from the UFC roster. And yeah, Moroz is probably a good fighter. And then to test her against Themba Gorimbo, got takedowns, got volume striking. Every time he went for a submission, he lost position against Takeshi Sato, couldn't hold him down. He's got a long way to go. He is improving. Apparently had the flu before the fight, so good on him. Showed he had cardio, honestly, because despite looking tired and doing everything super inefficiently and like at a super high pace, he managed to keep going for 15 minutes and continue to dominate Takeshi Sato throughout and get the job done. His post-fight promo was like kind of charming, even though I missed half of it because like he was speaking really fast and making mistakes with his English. I still don't know if he's going to be any good because he's not good. He's not good at anything right now. He's just kind of a structuralist fighter who wants to be a wrestling kind of guy. No real wrestling background, as far as I know. I believe he like literally his career started because he watched the movie Never Back Down. So read into that what you want. I like him. I want to see him do well. He's had a really hard life. Like it's a feel good story. I still don't know if he'll beat anything but the lowest level of competition. I penciled in Josh Quinlan to fight him, but like even that feels like it might be a bad idea. And for Takeshi Sato, my guy, there's nothing left for you to do in the UFC. It's time to head back to Japan and do your thing there. You don't have an integrated style. You don't really have a game plan, and nothing really works for him. And hasn't really worked in any of his fights. Knocking out Ben Saunders on the absolute wrong side of his career and Jason Witt, who never could take a punch, is not a great look. I mean, not that those aren't a great look, but having those as your highlights is not a great look. And he doesn't fight at a pace that's going to allow him to really be competitive with anyone. And I don't think he really asks any questions. Like, that's the thing is, like, I pondered taking Themba Gorimbo because I don't think Gorimbo belongs in the UFC. I want him to. Like, it's a feel-good story. But the only reason I even pondered picking him in this fight was that Gorimbo himself doesn't belong. So, like, you can't even test prospects against him. He's just a question of, like, are you going to be aggressive and throw volume and not have a glass jaw? If yes, you're going to win. I mean, I guess you could say that, like that's a great first step in the UFC, but I don't see him being around for long, if at all. So that brings us to the end of this card. Again, did pretty well on it. Had a nice rebound card. Check the links below if you want to join up on the Discord. Follow me on social media. Check out my gaming stuff or consume this podcast in another method. I am actually looking for a new platform to add on. Maybe around like episode 150. This is 101 or 102, I forget. And that's all I got. Enjoy the week off from the UFC. And I may or may not do like a questions podcast. So like if there's a bunch of questions in the Discord or on social media, I'll get to them and plow on through. So until then, have a good day. Enjoy your weekend. And I'll be streaming later on tonight for Super Mega Baseball. Or actually, well, kind of more like this afternoon.